Hello everyone, welcome back to Gelvin Valley, made by Wild Wild Wes. We always start at our door, and a good morning in game. We opted to take the night for some rest from our busy planting schedule, and I think we're going to continue in field number 3 over there. We've arisen before daylight, and we can see the beautiful Milky Way galaxy overhead. Before getting there, though, let me wind up this handy-dandy timer provided by my dear friend Atomic67. Set it on 30 minutes so I know when to shut my app. There's a ticking. I'll set it over to the side and hopefully it doesn't excite me too much when it goes off. Kind of just going around here to our equipment. Turn some lights on. Get everything out. Okay, so looks like I have a little bit on or of seed. Get her all cranked up. Oh yeah, this is the old light glitch with, come on, open sesame. There we go, just had to be in the right trigger. Once we get to daylight, this should look a little better for us. You know, one downside of sleeping the night away and waiting for a little bit more daylight is, of course, that we end up paying a lot more rent on our unit here. Maybe what I should have done was turn it in overnight. We back this up into here. I got barley going. I think that's gonna work. I'll just get ready to continue on planting. You know, I gotta say, at 5 a.m. the visibility in here isn't the best. But we'll make do. But what I would like to see, it's only showing one or the other. I don't know why that is. I think it has something to do with the mechanics of the game and its own limitations. Sure would be helpful if it would show both, but it doesn't. So we're just gonna have to make do. You know, I had to jimmy this just a little bit. I say jimmy this, jimmy the game. I've been using a mod called Growth Manager, where I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it forces 100% of the growth that's going to happen to take place at midnight. You know, and I kind of like that effect. You know, it's kind of weird when you're in game and doing stuff, and all of a sudden the crop grows, and maybe if you're out working in the field and it's not ready to harvest all of a sudden, because of the mechanics of the game and the calculations that it does, it says, hey, we're harvestable now, and so right under your feet, it will turn the textures to harvestable. And, you know, I realize that can happen in real life. I mean, everything's growing under our feet at any given time, of course. But it's kind of hard to suspend reality in game and, you know, just kind of watch and see that happen. So anyway, this mod would force all of the growth to happen right at midnight. So that way it happens once, and everything you see during the day is stable. It'll just stay the same all day long. Well, I kind of ran into a problem with it when I wanted to change to another day. Because on fast growth mode, or however this has been working, what it does is right after midnight, everything's all of a sudden harvestable. And I know I've kind of been playing a fast growth anyhow. But I'm in the middle of, and they fixed this in later versions of the game, made it a little more realistic with Seasons mod and some of those. But I'm in the middle of planting, so of course, I'm trying to simulate fall, if you will, the fall time of year, or maybe even spring as I get ready, planting the crops into the ground. And so the last thing I wanted to do was just change days and all of a sudden have harvestable crop in one of the fields when I'm still in the middle of planting. And of course, I experimented several times, and that's exactly what happened. I fast forwarded to tomorrow, and the fields that I had already planted were harvestable. So when I removed the Growth Manager mod, it let me fast forward, and it didn't change it to harvestable. So, and then I could reinstall the mod. A bunch of hocus pocus. But in general, I do like the effect of the mod, so I have it back in. I don't know how it plays with some other mods, like let me get GPS on here. I'm gonna go give it, I think that works. Like the soil mod. And I'm kind of starting or working on another series in another map where I hope to learn about the soil mod and see kind of how that works and just kind of explore it as I go. So maybe over there in the Apple one, I won't be able to have the Growth Manager mod anymore. But I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Here I'm just continuing to plant the old fields and get them all established and ready to go again. And I got a ways to go. Yeah, I'm in field number 3, 4, 40. Yeah, I got a circuit I got to do kind of around the map. Planted our new big field. I think that's field number 18 up on the other side of the valley. I'm done on the other side of the valley, I believe, and now I'm on this side. Probably all the fields I'm doing over here will scarcely be the same amount as field number 18, but still have to get the job done. This past week, I attempted to do something a little different. Most of these videos, those of you that have been good enough to come and listen to them, they're pretty easy to do. Other than for me trying to figure out what to talk about for half an hour at a time, which admittedly I'm not very good at. But other than that, they're pretty easy to do. I just crank the game up, come in here, start playing, start talking, set the timer, and 30 minutes later, I'm done. And most of the things, that I talk about are just whatever's going on in life at the moment. It's pretty easy. As my friend, all of our friend, Eustace Pharmer, Atomic 67, as he went by later, as he would call it, it's a video chewing the fat. Oops, I'm on the wrong. Which is just talking about whatever comes to mind. But I know something that all of us enjoyed, specific to Eustace Pharmer, is his storytelling ability. And I really miss it. There's so many of his videos I've gone back and listened to because they're just enjoyable, engaging stories. And who doesn't like a story, right? But it's most assuredly not easy to do. and all you have to do is attempt to do it, and you learn real quick that you either have the knack to do it or you don't, and it's going to be a pile of work. And I'm not saying that it wasn't a pile of work to him. You know, anybody looking at his videos, you know they're meticulously edited. He put in sound effects, he put in music, he occasionally would have time-lapse videos and set music to those, and animation techniques, overlays, just you name it. And a lot of this, I don't even hardly know what I'm talking about, but it's a whole new world, if you will, of trying to figure out how to make a video for YouTube, how to edit it, put it together, and all those kinds of things. And he was very, very good at it. Plus, he had a gift of storytelling, so anybody looking at his library of YouTube videos, and many of us that saw them as it happened, we just knew he was an engaging storyteller, and that was part of the appeal. And he did other types of videos too, mod reviews, app reviews, and that kind of thing. And I know in talking to him, it was a source of frustration, if you will, that's maybe the way to put it, that some of the videos he worked the hardest on, like his story videos, didn't get as many views as some of the other videos that he did that were technically easier to do, but that for whatever reason the public liked better. You know, for example, a mod review. A lot of times you go into those and you'll see something, tens of thousands of views. And then you'll go to a story video and there may be 1,000 or 1,500 views, and the work that it took to do one versus the other was quite a bit different. So and I guess what I'm saying is it's a lot of times a labor of love to, you got to really want to do it, to tell a story and to put in the work to do it. And he did it again and again and again for all of our enjoyment. And, I think I've expressed before, getting to know him kind of over the years, this really wasn't his favorite game. And I know he kind of had some plans underway to get to, it's one of the reasons he changed his name from Eustace Pharmer to Atomic 67 at some point. He no longer wanted to be associated, well, not just associated, he just didn't want his name linked to the farming simulator franchise, as he wanted to branch out. And I'm sure he would have gotten to tell stories in other game genres, if you will, if he would have had opportunity or lived. And unfortunately, he was taken from us much too soon. I still miss the man, and I know many of us do. But he's passed on, and I'm just thankful that what we have left is many memories of a friend, and also the fruit of his hard work, if you will, still left on the internet for all of us to enjoy. All that to say is, it is hard to tell a story and to tell it well, and I have another map I've been working on that I'd really like to do a series on, and oh, for goodness sake, show me both lights. Need light. It's 5:15. I'm buzzing around here in the dark, trying to get this boot healed in. But this other map that I've been working on is Glen Ellie, and a lot of it has been on the modding side of things. And I've shown a couple episodes of it. The first episode was to do a map tour, kind of the original map. Farmer Yip made the map, And so I kind of take a tour of what he did, and then I have a couple episodes taking it around, showing a number of changes that I made to it over a very long period of time. Just as I learned. I mean, I basically used his map to learn how to do mapping in Farming Simulator. And so there's a lot of things I've added over time, and things I never got to. I realize this is an old game, Farm Sim 15, but it's always kind of held a special place in my heart, as it's kind of one of the first that I was introduced to the franchise, if you will. So I have a couple episodes on that. Maybe it was 4 episodes total, I don't recall. But what I've always wanted to do was a story series. And I will say, easier said than done. And because I just did one, and maybe it'll be coming out, I think it'll be coming out this week. I say this week, this is now September of 23. So I couldn't even get it to go quite a full half hour. I think it's 28 minutes. And that includes the opening and the close and all that in there too. But it's, and I don't know how a television production is made. That's something I've never really looked into. But in many respects, it's got to be something similar. You'll hear about writers that these shows have, where they figure out the dialogue of the characters and the situations and story and whatever that they're in. And it felt kind of similar trying to do it in here. I mean, I literally sat down, and this is where someone like Atomic 67 was just simply more gifted. I think, I can't prove it, I'd have to ask his wife if she would know, but I think a lot of it he just came up with on the fly. Maybe he had a germ of an idea as he took off on a story angle, but I really don't know how much prep that he did. All I know is that I had to do a ton of preps. I literally sat in my word processor for a while to kind of come up with some crummy dialogue between some characters as I tried to envision, what this story is going to look like, as I try to put it in place. So I think it took me over a week of just thinking about it, kind of how I wanted to do it. And, it's, and there's so many, I know there's lots of role plays out there, and some of them are geared for kids, kind of, or a kid mentality. Some are a bit more mature. But it seems like there's only just so many ideas that are out there. It's, maybe it's some kind of gambler coming along and picking up a farm and trying to make it go. Maybe it's a hired person working with the boss to make decisions on the farm. Maybe it's a kid that inherits the farm and his uncle has passed away, or whatever. All these different ideas to start off these role plays. And I know we've talked about those before. Some of them are pretty good. I remember one that incorporated, it was quite a story, incorporated even romance into it, and boy meets girl, and that was all incorporated into a farming sim story pretty remarkably. I think that was Overcord Gaming that did that. Hats off to all of those efforts. And like I say, it's easier said than done on just coming up with this. So I don't know how the other guys did it. Don't know how Atomic 67 did it. All I know is I had to spend quite a bit of quality time trying to figure out what character A would say to character B. And I think from listening to Atomic 67, we know, he often would have different voices for his characters. I don't know if he literally did all the voices himself, I've wondered if he used, I never asked him about this, if he had some kind of vocal synthesizer, where he could say a line and the software or whatever would turn it into something else. For example, it's pretty hard for a guy to make his voice sound feminine. If you have a feminine character. Um, and he also, he was just a hoot to be with because, he knew, I think, more than one language, so he knew accents to put on it. So, a lot of times I think he was just laughing, at himself doing some of this, where he's trying to mimic a Scottish accent or British. I guess we Americans, we try that sometimes and do horribly at it, of course. But he would try that, and yeah, just had all these different voices. So I figured, well, why not? I maybe could give that a try too. But it's hard. It's hard, just flat out hard. And one of the things I ran into is it's if you invent a voice, you kind of need to remember how it sounds, if you will. And so I don't know if maybe a lot of us have seen the Warner Brothers cartoons in days of old. I think a lot of them were made in the 40s and 50s, 1940s, 1950s, and so you got the voice of Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam and all these characters, and most, if not all, of those were done by a vocal artist by the name of Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc, just a wizard at making different voices. But sometimes it wonders, like, how did they have it so consistent that every single new cartoon, when you heard Bugs Bunny, he always sounded like Bugs Bunny. Just like how you always knew him. So when you make your own story and have your own characters, if you will, if you're not careful, this is what I found trying to do it, is it doesn't take very long, and pretty soon my voice, oops, oh shoot, I'm not all the way down. My voice just flat out gives out. You can only do a hokey voice for just so long. And, when you don't have a very strong voice like me, it gives out or changes, and it no longer sounds or has the effect that you wanted it to have. So I know for me, one of my characters that I wanted to have was a little old lady, a grandmother type, if you will. And when I started off, it sounded okay. Kind of a caricature of an old woman's voice, if you will. But the more I tried to do of her in a string of dialogue, the more it changed, because I think my voice was weakening, if you will. And I don't know how those cartoons were done, if they did all the dialogue in bits and pieces and then just tied it all together, as they produced it later. I did some of the dialogue that way, and meaning where I would take one character, focus on, oh, I'm out of sauce. I gotta go get my tractor. I'm gonna just let him sit there. I'm gonna go get, oh, it's clear on the other side of the valley. That's all right. We're gonna head on out of here, go over and service our tractor. So in a cartoon, did Mel Blanc do all the vocal work for Bugs Bunny? And then if there was another character, he would do that one, and the next one, and then someone else would cut and paste all of these in. I have no idea if that's how it was done, or just, any of that kind of stuff. So, one sequence in this other one that I worked on was pretending that you heard a radio broadcast, and so then there was two radio broadcasters. Can I I sneak through here? I think I can. And just the interplay of those two. And what I chose to do was to do both characters separately. So this was a beauty of having it all worked out in the word processor. You know, I knew exactly or kind of what each character was going to say. So I focused on one for a while, recorded all those, then I did the other guy, recorded all those, and then later had to do a bunch of editing to cut and paste and put those in the sequence that I wanted them to be. And then to take all those, and because I did all that outside of the video or outside of Farming Sim, then I had to go take the footage of Farming Sim, and I had to make sure there was enough time of doing nothing or being silent so they could hear the radio dialogue. And I guess I'm saying all this to say it's a lot of work, and maybe I'll figure out tips, techniques, tricks, shortcuts, if you will, in doing some of it, those kinds of things. All I know is after doing an episode of this, I mean, it makes me respect all the more Atomic 67's raw talent for doing it, and it is no small feat, what he did. And if there was anybody that listened to him that ever tried to pressure him for releasing a video or that kind of thing, it's like, after trying to do it, it's not easy to do. So, all right, get this all filled up and get back on the planting. Let me go move this out of the road. Maybe just come park it over by the entrance, kind of out of the way if I can. Just outside the gate. Make sure I set the brake. There ain't nobody that comes down this road. So there's the brake. Off we go. Now we'll continue. Oh yeah, I bought a bunch of seeds, so of course I'm negative. Here we go. Continue planting these fields. So I always knew Atomic 67 spent a lot of time at, with the video editor. And that's something, I mean, he kind of introduced to me when I first did these videos. I mean, it was, at least now I have an intro, if you will, and an outro. But the only reason I have him is because he's the one that made them for me. And otherwise, I wouldn't have anything at all. I would have maybe a thumbnail for the video, but that's pretty much all I would have. So bless his heart, he created those for me. I'm not sure in what program they were created. I know he used Adobe quite a bit for his animation and what have you. So I'm not familiar with how that works. He just gave me a video file, so I can easily insert it. It makes it pretty easy on my end for the editing. But most of the videos that I've done, they're pretty low maintenance, pretty easy to just crank out. But this other one, I spent a fair bit of time, and at the end of the day, it's pretty dumb. It is just absolutely dumb. There's a little bit of storytelling in there, but it is just absolutely ridiculous. And so it's a labor of love, creative endeavor, if you will. Please don't expect too much as you, if some of you would look at it. I still want to try to do a series, but like I say, it takes more time, more creative input, if you will. So I don't know how many of them I'll do or what pace they'll come out, but it was a lot of fun to give a try to it. And anybody listening to this, I don't know if they've ever tried to do that, or maybe it's easy for you. A story just flows off of your tongue really easy. It sure seemed a whole lot easier, when I told stories to my kids when they were young and putting them to bed at night and those kinds of things. But it's a little different there, where you don't have the visual and you're just entirely using your imagination, if you will, to tell a story. And the kids sometimes fall asleep halfway through anyhow, so a little bit tougher to do when you're trying to coordinate it with a video and in a game and tell a story and all that. So I even figured out how to do time lapse. Yeah, I jumped. There went the timer off. I don't know if you heard it. But I even figured out how to do a time lapse, and I didn't see. This is where I'm just learning. I don't know how to set it to music yet. I even had to render the video more than once because I screwed some things up in there. When you speed up video and it changes the sound, and so maybe at some point I'll figure out how to put music on there of some kind. But then you got to figure out copyrights and all that. And YouTube, I know, has its own music library. I probably would just borrow some of theirs. But I mean, Atomic 67 was so gifted at that kind of thing, and he would just set stuff to music. He would time it so you could see it punctuated by certain things done in the game, and yeah, I doubt whether I'll ever get to that point of fancy editing or techniques or whatever, but it's kind of fun to tinker with it a little bit. And I even put in a sound effect, door knocking. I think I put that in there. A character knocked on a door. Anything that we don't have available to us in game. And that takes care of field 49. So I'm gonna call the episode here, and I think I'm paying through the nose to rent this thing. But thank you so much for coming along as I share my silly little journey of trying to make a story episode, if you will, and try a more creative endeavor in farming sim. I think it'll be kind of fun. Just don't know how much energy I have to do it. Wherever you're at, hope you have a wonderful day, night, whatever it is, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.